Time is certainly something that none of us can ignore. We can't break out of it, we can't stop it, we can't slow it down, can't change its direction. We are stuck at this point in time, and time will keep moving at the pace that it chooses, and we're just along for the ride. So like it or not, this is what we are dealing with. One way or another, we have to find some way to work with time. But it seems like the way we think about time is very flexible. There's no one clear way to describe time, to interpret time, to deal with it. Nobody really even understands what time is. I mean, we measure time by measuring the rate that things change in the world around us. Originally based on the movement of the sky, sun going up and down, and now we use atomic clocks that look at the speed of atoms and we measure their movement, and that's how we measure some idea of what we call time. But it's nowhere near any kind of a clear concept of, oh, this is what time is. In physics, you treat it as a dimension. It is a one dimension and you're moving along this time But that's a mathematical abstraction. There's nothing that we can know automatically is really real about that. Time is something that seems to be very illusory. I mean, in some way, we know that it's referring to something that is absolutely real, because there is things that change over time and things get older and these things happen as time passes. So there's definitely something real connected to time. But the way that we look at it, we don't really know exactly what to make of it. Now, from a practical point of view, it's very useful to really be plugged in to standard time, the minutes, hours, days, having our time of day all worked out, having our calendar day all worked out, standardized around the world or with everybody that we're dealing with, so that we can make appointments. We can say, I will meet you at X time, and then you can both be in the same place at that time. That is a very powerful, practical benefit that we have from working within this measured time. And because of that power, I think that as long as we actually want to meet people, as long as we want to coordinate more than one person to be in the same place together, then we will continue to use this powerful concept of measuring time. And there can be some value in measuring time for ourselves, just to be able to study what we're doing, get a sense of how much we're doing these different things. You know, how long are we sleeping? How long are we working? We can measure things, but it starts to become less clear how valuable that is. Because of course, not all time is created equal, and just spending X number of hours working, you know, that could be a very uneven level of work. Same with sleeping. They say sleep for 8 hours, but you know, sometimes you can sleep for 6 and it's good sleep. You can sleep for 10 and still feel sleepy. So we can't apply this kind of exact measurement of time to everything. It seems to me like the farther we get away from this practical level of meetings and appointments, the less useful this kind of measured time really is. It seems like because we live inside this measured time world so much, that it can really become built into the way we think, even more than it needs to be, maybe too much. And we can kind of have this clock going in our minds all the time, that we're always within some kind of a time window. It's like, oh, okay, now I have to be here at this certain time, therefore I must do this, therefore I must do this, before, so that everything is laid out. Of course, some people never think this way, and then they may be late and show up whenever they happen to show up. That may not work. But I think that I sometimes take it too far towards being too organized in time, so that I always have my schedule lined up, and it feels like I'm living inside a clock sometimes, just because all my time is within this kind of measured pattern. So even in the evening, okay, I'm done for the day. Oh, but I have to wake up at this time, therefore I need to go to sleep at this time, therefore, counting back from everything. It seems like it's a rare moment to really just be outside time entirely. I think this can be a valuable thing to do, to just take a break from this measured time. We don't need to always think of ourselves as being within this number, like it's a certain o'clock on a certain calendar day. It seems like that's always kind of lodged in my mind, in the back of my mind, that everything I'm doing is sort of in the context of this hour and this day. But we don't have to always think that way. Imagine forgetting what time it is. And maybe again, for some people, they may be doing this every day. So some people already have this down. But imagine just leaving that whole time system and just being there. Things are just there. Not everything has to have a set time. The day doesn't really have to be that calendar day. It doesn't have to be tied to the number that we apply to it. We can simply have a day. The day being measured by the sun going up and down, okay? So now the sun's up, it's some time of day. What's the calendar day? Well, you can see it's winter, it's a certain time of year. So you could think of daytime right now. This is daytime, winter, and that's it. Now you can see why this is not very practical and why we use the numbers practically. You don't say, hey, let's meet during the daytime in the winter. That may result in a lot of cold waiting around. So instead, of course, we have a date and a time specifically specified with numbers so we can meet. But if we're not meeting anybody right now, why do we need to always automatically think of our day inside those numbers? So it's a very abstract point, but I think there can be some value in just breaking out of this pattern of the numbers of time, the measured time ticking by, cycles of hours and days, the clock, the calendar, always living within this framework. I think it can be useful to remember that that framework is a convention, a convenience. It's something artificial, something we set up to help in practical matters, but it isn't inherently there. So I'm curious if you've ever tried this. Do you normally think this way maybe and just don't worry about what time and day it is? Maybe impractical for meeting appointments, but on the other hand, could be quite freeing. Or do you always find yourself checking the time and thinking about how you're going to fit what you're doing within the hours and days available, always thinking about the next appointment? And what I'm curious about is, what would be different? What would be different if we didn't think of ourselves living within the clock and calendar? Imagine just being on a day, having a day to just be there.